The Diesel brothers are sharing their side of the story. A federal judge ordered the custom truck makers to pay more than $800,000 to the U.S. government as well as Davis County for polluting Utah's air.
The rumors stopped being rumors the moment federal agents showed up. Dave Sparks, better known as Heavy D, was taken into custody, and years of speculation surrounding the Diesel brothers suddenly took on a very different meaning. What really led to that moment? And why did a case that began with modified trucks end up threatening the reputation of one of YouTube's biggest automotive brands?
According to a lawsuit filed against the Diesel brothers back in 2016, Sparks and his team stripped pieces like the DPF from their trucks, violating the Clean Air Act.
Join us as we uncover what Heavy D finally confirmed all along. The rumors that took over the internet. Long before anyone was taken into custody, many Diesel Brothers fans had already begun to sense that something wasn't right. At first, it was little things. Beneath videos showcasing massive truck builds and over-the-top giveaways, the comment sections slowly filled with questions that had nothing to do with horsepower or custom suspensions. Viewers wanted to know what was happening with the emissions lawsuit. They wondered how much the legal battle was costing, where the money was going, and whether the empire they had watched grow for years was as untouchable as it appeared on television. Those questions refused to disappear. Instead, they spread far beyond YouTube. Reddit users started piecing together court filings, comparing legal updates, and debating what they believed was really happening behind the scenes. As the online discussion intensified, one thing became increasingly noticeable. Heavy D wasn't saying much, and that silence created a vacuum, and the internet was more than willing to fill it. Before long, the audience had split into competing camps, each convinced it understood the real story. One group believed the Diesel brothers had become the target of government overreach. To them, the emissions lawsuit represented regulators taking aim at a popular diesel culture they simply disliked. They argued that the company was being made an example of, not because it posed an extraordinary environmental threat, but because it had become one of the most recognizable names in the diesel community. Another group reached the opposite conclusion. They believed the evidence spoke for itself. From their perspective, the emissions modifications described in court documents had been happening for years, and the government's case was nothing more than the inevitable consequence of repeatedly violating federal environmental regulations. In their eyes, the legal judgment wasn't excessive. It was overdue. Eventually, however, the waiting for an explanation came to an end. The answers fans had spent years searching for did not arrive through a carefully edited YouTube upload or a polished public statement crafted for social media. They emerged somewhere far less forgiving, a federal courtroom in Utah, where the weight of a legal battle that had stretched across 9 years had finally caught up with everyone involved. There, after years of delays, arguments, and mounting consequences, the story entered its most decisive chapter yet. For years, fans pieced together the clues, but Heavy D never addressed them directly. Then, he finally broke his silence and confirmed what many had believed all along. What was the truth that changed how people saw him?
And then we had a hearing on Monday, and we went to court and we explained to the judge what was going on and how this was all working, and fortunately, the judge was fair, and he was kind, and he was sympathetic, and he said, you know what? No, you can't stop their sale.
The man who built it all. Before the arrest, Dave Sparks was just a guy in Utah who was obsessed with diesel trucks in a way that went way beyond most people's understanding of what obsession looks like. He was born on June 18, 1979, in Salt Lake City, Utah, and his first vehicle build was a 1976 Yamaha YZ80 dirt bike that he pulled apart and put back together himself before most kids his age had figured out what they wanted to be when they grew up. That instinct to take it apart, understand it, and put it back together better was going to define every professional decision he ever made. He and his best friend David Kiley, known as Diesel Dave, co-founded Diesel Sellers LLC in Bountiful, Utah, and they built it the same way most genuine small businesses get built, through word of mouth, through the quality of the work, through showing up every day and doing something that people wanted badly enough to pay for. The name Diesel Brothers was branding built around a friendship. They are not actually related by blood. They called themselves brothers because the name fit the energy of what they were creating together. A YouTube video got them on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. And Leno being Leno, his genuine enthusiasm for what they were doing caught the attention of the Discovery Channel. Diesel Brothers premiered on January 4th, 2016. And for 6 seasons, it was one of the most entertaining things happening on cable television. 2 massive personalities, extraordinary truck builds, and a Utah shop that operated at a scale and with an ambition that most shops in the country never attempted. The brand that came out of those 6 seasons was enormous. Instagram, with 4 million followers. A YouTube channel that kept growing independently of the television show. Merchandise, events, sponsorships, and underneath all of it, a diesel modification business that was doing exactly what it had always done, removing emission systems, adding power, and producing the rolling coal clouds that were the visual signature of the entire brand. The problem was that the rolling coal required removing federally mandated pollution controls. And in 2016, a group of doctors in Utah had finally had enough. What happened when that frustration finally reached the courtroom?
Oh, Monster Jam! I love it. Drink it in.
A nice day for Monster Jam.
The lawsuit that changed everything. In 2016, just as Diesel Brothers was making its debut on Discovery, another story was beginning to unfold behind the scenes. While the television series introduced millions of viewers to the world of diesel truck customization, it also caught the attention of a group that viewed the show's message very differently. That same year, the Utah Physicians for a Healthy Environment filed a lawsuit against the Diesel Brothers and Sparks Motors. From their perspective, the issue wasn't simply about modified trucks. They argued that the growing popularity of rolling coal and removing factory emission systems was contributing to poorer air quality, especially in communities already struggling with pollution. As the television show gained a national audience, the physicians believed it was helping normalize practices that federal environmental laws were specifically designed to prevent. As the case moved forward, laboratory testing became one of its most significant pieces of evidence. According to court findings, trucks modified by Sparks Motors produced particulate emissions ranging from 21 to 36 times the legal limit. Those weren't small technical violations or minor adjustments that barely affected emissions. The testing indicated that essential pollution control systems had been removed or altered in ways that dramatically increased harmful exhaust emissions. Perhaps the most unusual part of the case was how much of the evidence came directly from the Diesel Brothers themselves. Investigators didn't rely primarily on hidden cameras or anonymous tips. Instead, they pointed to videos the group had voluntarily uploaded to YouTube over the years. Those videos showed diesel modifications, discussed the work being performed, and featured the people involved. Content that had originally been created to entertain fans and grow the brand eventually became evidence presented in court. The same online presence that helped build the Diesel Brothers' popularity also played a major role in the legal case against them. In March 2020, U.S. District Judge Robert Shelby ruled against the Diesel Brothers and ordered them to pay $851,400 $451 in penalties. The defendants appealed the decision, arguing that the judgment should be overturned. However, in 2021, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the ruling, leaving the judgment in place. At that point, the legal process had largely run its course, and the financial penalty remained enforceable. What happened afterward changed the focus of the story. Despite the court's ruling, the payment was not fully made. As time passed, the court issued orders requiring financial disclosures in an effort to move the case toward resolution. According to court records, those orders were not fully satisfied. The outstanding balance remained unresolved. In 2024, the penalty was reduced by approximately $225,000, an adjustment that appeared intended to encourage payment and bring the long-running dispute to a close. Even with that reduction, however, the remaining balance, reported at $843,602.23, was still unpaid. The situation escalated again in October 2025. On October 2nd, a federal arrest warrant was issued in connection with the case. 5 days later, on October 7th, U.S. Marshals executed the warrant, bringing the years-long legal battle back into the headlines. Around that same period, Heavy D publicly addressed the controversy in a way that caught many fans by surprise. Rather than insisting that nothing improper had occurred, he acknowledged that some level of punishment was justified. He admitted that he regretted certain diesel modifications performed in the past and accepted that consequences for those actions were understandable. At the same time, he argued that the lengthy legal battle and its continued escalation had gone beyond what he believed was a fair or proportional response. His comments stood out because they didn't fit neatly into either side of the debate. They were neither a complete denial nor a full concession. Instead, they acknowledged mistakes while questioning the scale of the penalties that followed. For years, supporters and critics had argued over whether the Diesel brothers had done anything wrong in the first place. Heavy D's own words settled at least part of that question. He accepted that some of the modifications should never have happened. But even with that admission, one important question remained unanswered, and it would shape the next chapter of the story. The emissions case was already putting enormous pressure on the Diesel brothers. But before that battle could fully play out, another controversy was quietly gaining attention behind the scenes. So what did investigators discover that changed the conversation all over again?
Because I've been respecting the court process and just kept my head down, doing my part to get this resolved, but the group suing me, well, they finally crossed the line, and it's time for me to speak out.
The investigation. The emissions lawsuit was already a lot for one brand to navigate. And then the helicopter situation started becoming public. Dave Sparks is a certified helicopter pilot. He owns a military surplus Black Hawk, and he has been flying it at events with passengers on board and posting the footage publicly for years. Videos from Camp RZR 2023, 2024, and 2025 showed the helicopter being operated at the off-road gathering in Glamis. Passengers posted their own footage of riding in it. Instagram reels showed it flying above sand dunes with people clearly on board. The documentation was everywhere. The issue is that operating a military surplus Black Hawk, carrying civilian passengers at public events, raises questions about FAA certification and military aircraft operation rules that do not have simple answers. Federal investigators began looking into the flights, and the evidence they needed was not gathered through any surveillance operation. It was gathered from the content Heavy D and his passengers had posted publicly, willingly, as part of the same document, everything approach that had built the brand in the first place. The pattern here is impossible to miss. The emissions violations were documented in YouTube videos. The helicopter flights were documented in Instagram reels. The strategy that built the audience, total transparency, showing everything and letting the fans feel like they were inside the operation kept creating records that people with federal authority found useful. Whether the helicopter investigation produces charges is still being determined as of 2026. What it confirmed is that the content-first philosophy had costs that nobody had fully calculated when the channel launched. Most people expected the legal troubles to define what came next. Instead, Dave Sparks made a move that almost nobody saw coming. What was the unexpected pivot that changed the conversation?
They knew that me getting arrested was the most absurd thing possible because they know I'm not a criminal and they know I didn't break any laws. And that was a common theme throughout my entire experience in jail.
The business move no one saw coming. While court orders were being issued and legal proceedings continued to dominate headlines, Dave Sparks was quietly working on a project that looked completely different from anything people expected. It involved electric vehicles. For years, Heavy D had built his reputation around massive diesel trucks, oversized engines, and high-performance builds that celebrated raw horsepower. His brand had become almost synonymous with diesel culture, making what happened next seem almost impossible. The opportunity began with Nikola, the startup that had generated enormous attention for its plans to develop hydrogen fuel cell and electric trucks. During the company's early expansion, Nikola hired Dave Sparks to help design a pickup truck known as the Nikola Badger. The project attracted significant interest because it promised to combine cutting-edge technology with aggressive truck styling. But in 2020, the Badger project came to an abrupt halt. As Nikola became embroiled in broader corporate controversy, the company canceled the vehicle before it ever reached production. Most observers assumed the project was finished for good and moved on. Heavy D didn't. Instead of walking away, he saw an opportunity. Rather than letting years of development disappear, Dave acquired the rights to the Badger program. Then, in February 2024, he announced that he had purchased the rights not only to the Nikola Badger, but also to Nikola's power sports program. More importantly, he revealed what he planned to do with them. The projects would continue under a new company called EMBR Motors. The announcement was one of the most dramatic shifts of his career. EMBR Motors was designed to focus on hydrogen fuel cell technology, electric utility terrain vehicles, and electric personal watercraft. It represented a future built around alternative energy rather than traditional diesel power. For many fans, the timing was almost impossible to ignore. At the very moment Dave Sparks was facing continued legal scrutiny over emissions-related violations, he was introducing a company dedicated to cleaner vehicle technology. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Social media quickly filled with comments from people pointing out the contrast. Some questioned whether the move represented a genuine change in direction, while others viewed it as one of the most unexpected pivots in the automotive industry. To many observers, it was difficult to reconcile the image of the man famous for modified diesel trucks with the entrepreneur now promoting hydrogen and electric vehicles. Yet beneath the irony was a pattern that longtime followers recognized. Throughout his career, Heavy D has consistently been drawn to ambitious engineering projects and emerging technology. In the early years, that passion centered on extracting maximum performance from diesel engines and building trucks that pushed mechanical limits. With EMBR Motors, the focus shifted to a different type of powertrain, but the underlying motivation appeared remarkably similar. The technology had changed, but the desire to build innovative, high-performance machines had not. Even as he explored cleaner transportation, Dave showed no signs of slowing down in other areas of the automotive world. In late 2025, he expanded his portfolio again by acquiring California Grizzly, a well-known monster truck program. Around the same time, he announced that the Diesel Brothers team was building a new bulldozer powered by a Cat C13 engine, proving that large-scale truck projects remained an important part of the brand. The contrast became impossible to miss. On one side, Dave Sparks was investing in hydrogen fuel cells and electric power sports. On the other, he was still building monster trucks and diesel-powered machines that had made him famous in the first place. For many people, those two worlds seemed impossible to balance. For Heavy D, they simply became different parts of the same story. While the legal challenges continued to unfold, the building never stopped. That constant drive to create, regardless of the obstacles, may be the clearest insight into who Dave Sparks has become. His career has rarely followed a straight line, but through every controversy, setback, and opportunity, he has continued doing the one thing he has always done best: building what comes next. For years, supporters defended him, while critics insisted they had been right all along. After 9 years of lawsuits, investigations, and courtroom decisions, there's finally enough evidence to separate fact from speculation. So who was right? And what does the full story actually confirm?
After years of being misunderstood and misrepresented, we finally got the moment of vindication we deserved. And I got set free out of jail.
The legacy of Heavy D. After nearly a decade of lawsuits, appeals, investigations, business expansions, and public debate, the story of Dave Heavy D Sparks is far more complicated than either his biggest supporters or harshest critics once believed. The legal record leaves little room for debate about what happened. Court proceedings concluded that diesel trucks modified by Sparks Motors emitted particulate matter far above the legal limit after their emission systems had been altered. The federal judgment was upheld on appeal, confirming the court's findings, and Heavy D himself later acknowledged that some consequences for those modifications were justified. He stopped short of agreeing with every aspect of the penalties, but he did not deny that mistakes had been made. The legal battle never brought the Diesel Brothers brand to a halt. Even as court proceedings continued, Sparks Motors remained in business. The YouTube channel continued releasing videos to millions of subscribers, and Dave kept launching new projects. His social media audience remained enormous, with roughly 4 million followers on Instagram continuing to follow his work. After being released from the Salt Lake County Jail in October 2025, he returned to posting content and working on new vehicle builds within a matter of weeks. Financially, the situation also reflected that unusual balance between success and challenge. Heavy D has been widely estimated to have a net worth in the range of $3 million to $5 million, while also carrying the weight of substantial legal liabilities stemming from the emissions case. At the same time, he continued investing in ambitious ventures, including the development of EMBR motors and other automotive projects. Few entrepreneurs find themselves trying to grow a business while simultaneously navigating years of federal litigation, but that became Dave Sparks' reality. Perhaps that is what makes his story so difficult to place into a single category. Is that the most ironic pivot in automotive YouTube history? Or is it actually the most Heavy D thing he could have possibly done? And now that everything is confirmed, the lawsuit, the arrest, the helicopter, all of it. Does it change anything about how you feel watching those old Diesel Brothers builds? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.